Why stop now? Part 3 of the cross member on the 1975 Porsche 914. And so far, the prep for the installation has gone well. So this morning I'm removing the material from the offending cross member that we figured out was from a donor car that was rusty to begin with. So these are the remnants of the edges of and they're coming off real nicely. So what I suspected is true, that whoever installed that did not drill out the original spot welds. Probably just cut the original out, and then installed the new one, or the replacement part, and then just basically went around and did a seam weld. Didn't even mess with the spot welds, which I think is what I'm going to do, because that metal's going to be pretty thin, and drilling it out is not going to be very helpful. And B, there's a lot of body filler in here. And if I start cooking this stuff up, all that's going to go bad. So I'm going to get the rest of the remnants of this metal off on this side and then move to the other. So after peeling off the replacement part, there is still a lip there. So that is the original fold of the cross member. So yeah, they did exactly what I thought they did. They went along and just cut it and left that in, and then put the replacement part on top of it. So it actually had 3 pieces of metal. I mean, it kept that lip on the fender in good shape, so I'm pleased about that. Yeah, you can see the same thing on this side here. So I'm going to spray primer on all this, and then it'll be time to start test fitting. Okay, so the first thing I'm seeing is right here in the corners. That's a little bit of a right angle. I'll have to remove a little bit of material there to get that to snug in. Same thing on this side. This side's even more pronounced. Then everything else should be able to pull in. I noted that my patch doesn't really conform as well as the other side does. That's a complex arc there. I'll beat it into submission somehow. But this horizontal support looks nice. That'll tighten up. Same is true with the bottom lip. Can get that to tighten up. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to take some work. It's not going to be, plug and play. But, yeah, it's a big part. So, let me start trimming and scooting it in. So, I got it to tighten up a little more. I trimmed here. Also trimmed down here as well. Just a little. And just by taking a hammer to it, I think I can pull these deeper. Inside this horizontal member, it's so flimsy, I can kind of maneuver around. Of course, it probably needs to be level. The bottom is different. Of course, obviously my patch over there. But see, that's pretty tight. I can tighten that up. However, where the pan is here, it's got a pretty good gap. Now, what I can do, instead of drilling a bunch of spot welds along there, rosette welds, can fold that lip back towards the pan. And actually, I like that better, I think. I can actually do lap welds on the bottom and from the inside also. And I think that's going to be better because this pan, the edge of it is pretty flimsy. I think it's going to hold better with yeah, sort of a lap weld. Yeah, because this metal will fold into the pan. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Good news is I can put big bolts on these brackets, right? And it'll hold that joker in place. So, all right, I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to prime the areas that are going to be buried. So, you know, and then start fitting. I don't see why not. Putting the bolts in really helped. It's starting to really get sucked down into the fender wells the way it should. I'll have to do a little trimming with the cutting wheel, but this is starting to fit quite nicely. A few little seam welds around the fenders. Just kept clamping as I went, pulling that metal together. Well, this bottom edge took a lot of work to get it to pull together. There was a pretty big gap. So what I ended up having to do was take the lip that was vertical and roll it back, right? And then also the lip on the inside that was vertical, I had to roll it forward. And then I use sheet metal screws with wide heads because there's not enough lap between the two lips to just run a sheet metal screw through both. So I used these with a bigger head on them and basically had the edge capture the lip and bring the two lips together. It's the best thing I could come up with. I probably should have rolled the edge before I ever put it on the car. I mean, it just made it a lot harder. And I got a lot more welding to do, but it's all pulled together now. And I need to tack in some of the inside stuff, and then we'll probably call it an evening. So this horizontal member has got a pretty big gap. Now, I noted that it's got a spot weld right in the middle, and it's like lapped. So it's almost like it's adjustable. And maybe they did that at the factory to account for, you know, varying dimensions or whatever. So I'm going to drill that out. And that should give me the ability to expand it or contract it. And hopefully I can make it conform to this new cross member a little bit better. It turned out to be two spot welds, one on the side, one on top. Splitting it definitely helped. And you can see I had to get kind of creative on how I held it in place to get a couple of tack welds in. Okay guys, just to kind of wrap this up, this front cross member, I mean, I've got a lot more welding to do on it, but bottom line, my observations about this procedure are it's definitely worthwhile if it's a super rusty car along that cross member, bulkhead, whatever you want to call it. Fitment, I think, would have gone a lot better had this been more of an original 914 with the front cross member being a donor part from another rusty car. I think things got kind of monkeyed up. It's been in a front end collision. That doesn't help. Let's look at some of the issues. You guys may encounter this. I mean, the bottom lip was a big deal The pan just didn't come out far enough. And from everything I can tell, it's the original pan. So ultimately, if I would bent that lip from the beginning, it would have helped a lot. However, because this is really thick metal, and that's good. It's the way it should be. However, if I went along and cut some little slits and was able to bend the metal back on the bottom to get it to mate up. Also, of course, that patch over here of mine, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Fitment around the fenders was actually really good, even though I know this fender's been repaired at some point. It was in a collision and been pulled out, probably a ton of body filler on it. That's fine. Fitment on this side was super nice. I just had to do a little trimming with the grinder. The face of this thing, if you think about it, doesn't really matter, because as long as these brackets where your bumper mount is are in the right place, that's what matters as far as the bumper fitting well. Haven't even thought about the lower fascia. Well, now that I think about it, it mounts to the bottom of the bumper, and then also that's one of the mounting points there for the fascia. So all that, I mean, this is a little wonky here, but I can fix that. All that in mind, what it will be somewhat critical is the latching mechanism. However, you have some adjustment on your top latch. So even if that's off a little, I think you could be able to adjust that to make it work well. Let me cut and bring the car down. We'll look at a couple more things. And then on the inside, what is definitely odd is this horizontal support, which more I look at it and with the way it's designed, I'm sure it helps in collision, but I've never seen one of these, but I'm pretty sure there's like a board that covers the spare tire. Never seen one, maybe in pictures, that's about it. So this would be integral in supporting that cover for the spare tire, perhaps. So I was only able, and you saw my clamp rig, because it'd take a super deep clamp to reach over the lip of this and capture that and press it. And right now I've got every bit of 3/8 of a gap there, maybe even a 1/2 inch. So I don't know that I can press that cross member up against that support, especially when it's pretty much flush on these indentations. I mean, that's some bent metal there. So it's doing exactly what it should do, in that it's nestling up against that. I will get some more welds around those areas. I'm confident I can do that. And another factor is this had already been welded to that replacement bulkhead, and I had to do a lot of grinding on it to get all those old welds off. So that's part of what's going on. So it may be just a couple more welds in here on each side, and Bob's your uncle, just let it run with that. What I am curious about is how obviously without the buckets there, it's a little bit mysterious, but I'm pretty sure that Restoration Design expects you to get the channels, continue your channels on the front. There's a lip there. Right now, the hood is not closing all the way. It's bumping up against that lip. However, with that bracket there for the latching mechanism, there's about a 1/2 inch of metal that can come off that lip. So I'll have to look at my 75 to determine how that channel works, because I believe there's another piece of metal here, or maybe it's on the back side. Well, it can't, because it'd interfere with the latching mechanism, wouldn't it? Anyway, I'll look into all that. Probably should try to get some welds in here just to secure that fender a little bit more. On the other bulkhead, there was welds all the way along here. I'll do a few. I don't know that that's super important. Once you put that bumper on, that's going to be pushing all that up against that bracket. So anyway, it's a work in progress. But I'm at, like I said, I'm out of shielding gas, so it's going to come to a screeching halt today. I'll probably be working on it some more next weekend. Right now, I'm going to move to the tunnel, because I did get my shift cable, clutch cable, throttle cable, and speedo cable. So I can get those in the tunnel. And still debating about the fuel lines, what I'm going to do on that, because the kit from Tangerine Racing is pretty expensive for fuel lines. I'll definitely do a video on that if I decide to cobble something together. Thanks as always for watching, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.